I'm going to go ahead and start recording here. All right. Welcome, class, to IT 254. Um, I noticed that she's like Jamal is still trying to connect audio and has been for over 5 minutes. So, but we'll go ahead and get started here. I am your professor, Dr. Christopher Otwell. I am a doctor in computer science and cybersecurity. The IT 254 class has been taught by the College of Computer Science and IT for a long time, and I guess starting with this quarter, that'll be switched over to the College of General Education. So, but at the same time, they've already selected all the professors and material being used, so there'll be a slow transition. There we go. So we're going to cover the joys of spreadsheets in Excel. I know that this course is going to be based on IntelliPath. There'll be and discussion boards. Because it's IntelliPath, there may not be any as much active usage of Excel within this class as it used to be. I certainly encourage you to learn to get to know that tool because it's a great tool for many reasons, especially in business. It's one of the primary analytic tools and mathematic compilation tools and database collection systems that we use in business in general. It is highly versatile in lots of different ways. So we'll go over the course agenda in this context, the battle rhythm of the course. Basically, each week's lessons consist of, well, there's 8 lessons in each week's that will consist of 5 within IntelliPath, the live chat summary, the discussion board related to the live chat, and the discussion board for general usage. So of those things, you'll need to be expected to do a number of assignments each week. This is only a 5-week course. Each week we will go through a package similar to what you're seeing on the screen right now. That will be your weekly briefing package that gives you, I will go through content, the usage of IntelliPath, how Excel gets used, where Excel gets used, why it gets used, how you can use it to do various tasks, the weekly agenda, what expectations, the things that are due on your syllabus, your homework assignments, and everything, right? Within the general education college, typically live chats are approximately 1 hour in length. Please bring questions each week to the discussion. I'm going to need to expand some of my briefing charts because the College of Computer Science typically only did half-hour chats. So I will have to add some more content to each of my packages here for this particular class. But definitely bring questions because it's always more fun and more interesting when we have interactive discussions. So a little bit about the me, myself, and I background. So I've been working in the computer industry since the early 90s. As soon as 91, in the field in some manner, working for a school. I actually did some stuff in the 80s as well as to help out a high school that I was going to it, where I built out their computer network for them because they didn't have one. But yeah, I worked for Sun Microsystems for a period of time back in the 90s, the early 90s. I've worked on what was formerly known as Reagan's Star Wars program, and a couple other programs since then. I work for Raytheon nowadays. My areas of focus in my career have always been data center architecture, cybersecurity, large systems, system integration, systems of systems integrations, networking, WAN design. So I've got a very broad base of computer science background. I've been teaching for CTU part-time as an adjunct since 2017. Number of times I've taught a number of different classes. This one has always been an online only class, whereas almost all the other classes were done primarily as an in-person type class up at the Aurora campus in Denver. which is where I generally prefer to teach when we have classes up in that. The weekly live chats will be here on Mondays, but yeah, so we have over 40 students in this particular course this week. In general, if you need to contact me directly to discuss, I'm open late at night for phone calls. I should be typically home from my office around 7:30, between 7:30 and 8 Mountain Standard Time. That's why I do this in the morning. That way I can get this done and over with, and the teaching out of the way before I have to go to the office, because I typically spend between 10 and 12 hours a day at the office. So that's why this is going to be at this early of a time shift. Today's going to be the only Tuesday live chat. Typically, they're going to be on Mondays at the start of each week. There will be 5 total live chats in general in this class. Like I said, this primary course is being done through IntelliPath, so it's going to walk through a little bit of what that means to you guys in case you hadn't seen that before. And you are going to be expected to do the work in order to achieve reasonable grades in this class. It is not hard to get an A in this class. You just have to spend the time to do the work in IntelliPath and do the discussion boards. They've actually increased the discussion boards percentage-wise in to 75 points per week, which makes them more necessary to complete in order to have successful A's and B's in this class. So I would highly encourage you to make sure you do the time to make that possible. So have to mute somebody. Okay. Course objectives. Talk about how to use spreadsheets as a troubleshooting tool, what its purposes are in life, how they're used, how to create pivot tables, data tables, how to graph with that. What does it mean to do mathematics with it? There is a spreadsheet applications workbook that you can get in on the website to gain access to electronically. There's also a number of Muse videos that we'll reference from time to time. Muse is a website that CTU created for the purposes of providing material and making it available for you to basically digest as like an offline instructorial thing, right? So in some ways they have videos much like YouTube. I do encourage you highly to use YouTube to search for anything and everything you need to. If there's something that I don't explain well enough to you, or it didn't make any sense the way I explained it, Excel, you can get hundreds of hours of how to do activities in Excel through YouTube. So it is certainly a highly valuable reference tool, and I'll be using that from time to time in this class as well. There we go. Okay. Oh, I didn't update these numbers. So the total points now is in this class is like 934. So they made the discussion board actually worth about 30% of the grade. So I need to go update that. I'll have to do that later. But taking that and doing the live chats, either participating in the live chats or writing up a summary in the discussion board, get you extra credit. It is worth the extra credit because it is worth at least a complete letter grade if you bother to do an extra credit for the live chats. So then you can do those either by participating, like many of you guys are right now doing, by logging in, or by involving yourself in the discussion board itself that talks over it. Each week we'll go over anything that I left or any questions that you guys have. Feel free to definitely ask questions. If something doesn't make sense, like I said, YouTube can tell you answers, or you can just email me, and whatever you email me will become part of the following week's lecture material. So as you'll notice, I have some questions already queued up from past times I've clocked this class, and I will just keep adding to that. So if you come up with a good question and it gets added, we talk about it, and your question can go down in infamy, as it were. So yeah, so each week's lecture, participation in class, anything left over will be spent as time interacting as need be. Your initial discussion boards are due on Thursdays. expected to have your first posts prior to that, and your first responses shortly thereafter. Your expected responses are due by Sunday. There would be 2 responses for each post made. I would suspect that you only need the guidelines as you need about 100 to 200 words per discussion board posting. I'm not going to sit there and do word count, but if you're going to give me only 20 word sentences, then eventually I will start deducting for that. So, at least make an effort, please, to do so. You can also the first discussion board is also about getting to know you, so I get to get a feel for what you're about. Please include what courses you are pursuing or what your degree is going to be as part of your discussion board posting for the initial time, because I would like to, if I need to, I can then tailor any specific topics towards things that make it more useful to you directly, especially since this is a general education class. I actually get a wide diversity in the number of students for the different things, but I can pretty much help anywhere I feel is possible to, so I will. So in the event that I don't describe something well, that's called a hanging chad. Definitely feel free to reach out to me and ask questions, and I will try to make it a better effort. It basically I failed to insufficiently define or explain something to you that I needed to readdress. So help me help you. This is going to be the topics of conversation for each of these 5 weeks. Like I said, with the recent changeover from the computer science to the general education, they revamped this a bit, and I will be needing to add more charts anyways, especially comes to week 4 and 5, because there's new topics that hadn't been in this class previously until now. So each week we'll also go over this list. Basically, this is an example from when I first started. I will describe by week how and which assignments are due that week and which ones are late at that point for being due or for being graded. And because late penalties do apply when you are late on your homework. It's harder to apply those penalties within IntelliPath. I get that, but it can be done. So definitely try to get your work done in time. And this will give you like a color coding of where we're at for an example. So like this week, the live Zoom chat session is now. We have a discussion board due on Thursday. Your IntelliPath is due on Sunday, and your extra live credit is also due on Sunday. So, and you can download these videos each week from the website. I actually keep an archive of videos both when I was a student and as a professor. I keep a video archive and download of all of the live material. So definitely, I think it's worthwhile. I actually put it on my Plex server so that if I ever needed to, I can refer to them in the past, which has been useful in some cases, especially since I myself has just graduated with the doctoral program, paid for by being an adjunct professor to you guys. So I didn't, basically I got the doctoral without any money out of pocket by being a professor. I get the education for free. That does full on. Once you get a bachelor's degree, you're able to teach associate's levels. If you get a master's degree, you can teach bachelor's level classes. And you, in that case, you, as a benefit, you can either get continuing education for free for yourself or for your kids. So my daughter is now going as a starting a junior as of today as well. So in CTU. Within IntelliPath, the learning map, as they call it. This is going to be the list of assignments you have to do. You have to basically go from left to right. You meet the prereqs to get from left to right to unlock the ones that are necessary. There are going to be 8 total assignments, I think, for each week within IntelliPath, or each topics within IntelliPath. It's either 5 or 8. This shows me it looks like it's 8. But yeah, we're going to start with the basics, some of the historical stuff, the simple pieces, how it's fit in. We're going to talk about a little bit today. And then as you get those things due, you can go there. Now, one thing about Nice IntelliPath is you can redo assignments all you want to your heart's content. And you can continue to improve your grade to the point where you get an A by just putting in time and effort. You can get that done very easily. So week 2, This is the learning map of week 2. Week 3, it does look like they're all 8. So each one is going to have 8 pieces. In this case, there's some prereqs for some of them to get to the far right side, the left side. So yeah, the system will grade you on your skill level and knowledge level as you go through the system, and gives you color coding as you go. So that's why this is useful, because you can then visually see just how you work within it, and you can go directly to a specific topic if you want to improve a grade of a specific topic. So hope that all made sense. The standard policy as stated by CTU for late being late is 1 to 7 days is a 10% of the total assignments points. Basically, I'd subtract 10% from the max. After 8 days, unless I agree to why it's late or decide as such, it's supposed to become 0 points at that point. So, as is how in the past, this class is very easy one to get an A in just by putting in the work. But I will say that even then, I've had as much as 25 or so % of the students in this class get Fs, while 50% got As, because that tells you how much work they put in. So but if you do have issues, you need to get delays, if there's things come up in your life you need to deal with, just let me know. A simple email will work. I'm fine with that. So I will adjust as need be based on just you having a basic email. So it's not a difficult problem to do. It is definitely worthwhile doing. CTU reminder, remember you have to participate at least once in each course during each session to continue to qualify for the Title IV financial aid requirements in the event that any of y'all are using student loans or something to that effect. So if you don't attend any classes within the first 2 weeks, they will withdraw you and you don't necessarily get the money back. So it would be worth it to make sure at least, obviously if you're online, you're participating, but just something to keep in mind is every time you sign for classes up, you'll want to do that. So as another example, in the learning materials, I not only do you have the video to this class you can download from Zoom, but I also upload a PDF version of the PowerPoint package you're seeing here, so you can go back and use it to download. You can review it as your instructional materials, helpful things. And like I said, you ask good questions, not only to get added to the overall package collectively for the class, but it will also help with future classes of this, and you can also then get your questions available to others to be able to reference for downloads, and it'll be added in the material. So like I said, I have past students that I've asked questions of I'm using right now, but I'm always open to that, and I will upload those PDF files into the learning materials side of the portal so that you have it for your reference and to download. Week 1's discussion board, chapter work, use topics. It is be good if you go out there and watch a video on the formatting cells. I will go over a little bit of that later today myself. This is the first Muse website link that's worth checking into for you to access. I believe the PDFs let you have interactive links. But if not, you can just copy and paste it directly into the browser and it'll work fine. The topics material is going to be chapters 1, 2, and what's in Appendix A from your books. So that'll give you the reading material you need to cover is those particular 2 chapters. And the general breakdown of how discussion boards get graded, in case you didn't know. 20% of it, not 20%, 20 points of it is based on whether or not you understood it, the topic material, and how you applied that information is worth another 20 points. So over half of the 75 points is off based on the initial posting, and then basically 55 points of it is about the initial post, and then the last 20 points is about your responses. In general, that's the way I've been doing it. So remember, the first posts are due on Thursday, and responses are due by Sunday. Then post and discussion board 1 is a good thing. Here's get to know you. I already posted my resume slide up there for you to get there. And as your professor, I'm here to help you walk through this journey. So my goal is to be your cheerleader and help you understand so you can meet and achieve that goal. There's nothing more important in life than to achieve an education in order to not only make yourself a better life, but to get yourself out of or to improve where your disposition is in life, right? Education is how you get there. Nothing else. I mean, it takes hard work sometimes. It should be hard work to make your life better, but it's education that's what makes that viable to do. So definitely it's worthwhile to get there. Like I said, I was the first one in my entire family tree to not only go to college, but now a doctorate. So I've achieved things that nobody in my entire family tree has achieved. And I've put myself in a position to probably make more money than 90% of them combined by doing so, because it's education. So it's worthwhile. That's why you're here. Definitely want you to pursue that. All right. So in Telepath, this is your Unit 1 assignment, learning map. Like I said, this is you just have to work on these particular things. You can do it as much as you want, as frequent as you want, as long as you get them done in time. And the grade is then posted, right? Any questions so far? Okay.
No questions.
It looks like we've gone 20 minutes so far. All right. So spreadsheets in general. Spreadsheets
someone had said they had a question. I don't know if you heard them.
Oh no, I said no questions.
All right, thanks. Okay. All right, so spreadsheets. How spreadsheets came about. So in order to solve some issues back in the early days of computers and the first desktop computers or home computers being produced, the Apple II, IBM PCs, TSR 80s, Commodore 64s, Commodore VIC 20s. I used to own a Commodore VIC 20 and several Commodore 64s, and have worked on TSR 80s. So back in the day, somebody thought it was necessary to create an accounting ledger on a computer. And that's how spreadsheets became born, right? So the first examples of that were introduced in Apple II and IBM's by a program called VisiCalc, which was basically an electronic version of an accounting ledger. Over time, Lotus 123 improved upon that, made it more integrated, added in other word processing type capabilities, and the ability to do like mathematical formulas. Excel took that to another level and has now become the primary business and productivity tool for over 30 years. Pretty much Excel gets used into everything engineering and everything business, in virtually any business that I've worked on or seen in the industry. So Excel is probably the most valuable engineering tool you'll ever come across to date that has been historically used anywhere, and which says a lot for its versatility. It was not necessarily intended to be an analytics tool, but that's how it gets used now because of what it can do with numbers, organization of data, sorting of data, categorization of data, visualization, and plotting of information. So it's useful for handling large scale complicated data processing and visualizing what it means to put that in there. So you can see charts, you can see graphs, you can see donuts on how numbers get used, percentages, and everything. So I'm sure people have seen budgetary systems before. That's just an example of how it can be used. Okay. So generally, spreadsheets accept 4 types of data. And those types of data would be either text, numerical, dates, and formulas. Now, by text, it can be numbers, symbols, letters, spaces. It can be physical text. It can be alphanumeric. It can be Cyrillic. You can even get extended ASCII if you know what that is. But it's there to allow you to sort and organize data in tabular forms. So you can define how data is structured by giving it correct labeling. Your values are numerical and typically right aligned in there by default, as opposed to text being left aligned. That's a visual, just a visual reference that Excel does by default, or most spreadsheets do by default, but you can override all those if you wanted to. You can also get in coloring. If you needed to, you can set it up so that everything in this group, if it's like greater than some number and it's a numerical value, you can say make it green as opposed to red. And you can actually set up formatting in that manner too. So dates can be entered in any number of dates that you typically see in Microsoft. That could be month/day/year, or in Europe, it'd be year/month/day, US versus Europe. Or you'll see them in like written out where it's like say September 7th, 2022, or something along those lines. Formulas are used with the equal sign in front of it and a name or a mathematical formula name, and then parentheticals, which include what you're actually going to do. So I'll give you an example of that here shortly. And then inside of Excel, we have the workbook title, the worksheet title down here. You can have multiple worksheets within one workbook. You can define all kinds of different groups and organization within the ribbon that's going here across from left to right. If you know anything about the common ribbon of Office products, this is the home page, the insert page, the page layout, formulas, datas, etc. So each one time you click on these going across, it'll change what the ribbon looks like, and you can actually customize this ribbon if you want. But the default ones are these. That gives you a visual idea of what Excel kind of looks like. The that's the undo button. Cut and paste, copy paste. That's this section here. It's under home. That's the redo as opposed to the undo, the save. Just some examples of how to read this, right? So everything is recorded rows. Left is going left to right. Columns going up and down. Cells are individual boxes, so that you can have those, and you can format any of those combinations of things in different ways to organize data as you see fit. So like I said, a formula always starts with an equal sign. You can put numbers inside of those parentheticals with the mathematical formulas. You could say 1,6, which means take those two numbers and in this case use the average to give you the average at. So 1 plus 6 added together is a 7. 1 of 6 gives you an average of 3.5. I know that seems kind of weird because it's using the average in this context as opposed to sum or total. If you use cell numbering, so if I go back and show you, right, you have columns and letters and rows and numbers, right? Well, you can use that to define specific cells like B1, or a range of cells using a colon between those from B1 to B6, which effectively means this row or this column here from 1 down to 6. So you can specify that particular column of data by using a range with the colon in that context. So that's how you generally put in cells into a formula itself. Now, the most common Excel functions that are used, and honestly, if you're using any of these beyond this, there's only about 3 or 4 functions that I ever use pretty much beyond these. And those 4 functions are like VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and I'd have to think really hard on anything else. So sum is the addition of different cells or ranges of cells. So you can get an adder for all of that, for cumulative adder. Average gives you average values or contents of the cells. Min provides you the smallest number within that range you get, and max gives you the largest number of that range. So you can figure out, like in the context of let's see, warehouse inventory, right? Yeah, the computer industry has evolved greatly over the several years. They don't even teach some of the topics back that I originally learned, such as processor chip design and and how you can use machine language to directly access processor code. They don't even teach those concepts anymore, but or the fact that everything's based on the power of 2 for a reason, because of binary numbers and gates being used within chip processing. Now we just know it all works. But yeah, so like I said, right, max can give you the largest number in the cells. Those are useful for things like inventory, right? So if you wanted to run yourself an inventory spreadsheet for a little home business you were running, yes, I've worked on computer data centers that had some of the old systems that took up entire rooms. Don't do that. It's not worth the trouble. Nowadays our phone have more processing power than computers did 10 years ago. Entire data centers did 20 years ago. Our little mobile phone now can do more than those. It's good. So but on the warehouse perspective, right? If you were to set up like a spreadsheet, so you import the data from, say, some of your vendors' websites or your suppliers' websites, and you needed to make orders every day from a couple of different suppliers, and then suddenly somebody's having like a price increase on eggs, you could take that data, use Excel functions, some basic functions in there, take the data and easily dump their numbers into your analytics tool inside of Excel, and that'll tell you the best people to get the best bang for buck for buying and purchasing your materials, your raw materials from, so you can turn around and make a profit on your business that's higher percentage than if you didn't bother. So perfect example in the world of inflation, right? We know inflation, food has gotten more expensive. Restaurants are changing their prices because of it. Even McDonald's is not immune to price increases, right? What used to be $1 or $2 for a sandwich is now like $2.50 or $3.50 for a sandwich. So they do the best they can to keep their prices down, but they have to go through a lot of analytics sometimes in order to find where to get their materials from. So that sort of purpose can help you greatly in that context, right? But these, you got the if statement. If you can do if greater than or less than this, or if this is equal to a value, you can get a true false statements in those, or a pound NA if it doesn't make sense for an output. You can get the current date and time. You can get the current date and time. You can do count A, count ifs, so you can get tallies based on criteria within ranges of cells, or just the numerical count of everything summated in that particular thing. So these are just your basic functions that the majority of the world uses today. But like I said, there's a few others, like VLOOKUP is probably one of the more useful ones that are of the thousands and thousands of mathematical functions that are available within Excel that get used. It's pretty much those plus VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and a few others that actually get used unless you're doing advanced scientific analysis type activities. So if you do create an incorrectly formulated formula in Excel, you'll get an error message in your cell that references something like these. These are just some common error messages. Pound references means you have something in your cell that no longer exists. Basically, you deleted a column that you referenced a value from originally. When you deleted the column or the row, it came back and replaced the original reference with a pound reference that no longer exists. But conversely, if you did delete a row of data and you had formulas, the formulas automatically update to recognize the fact that you no longer have that row of data. So you don't have to go and fix your formulas manually. They are designed to automatically be dynamically fixed for you by Excel. Pound name usually implies that it can't resolve something you're doing. Pound null implies that you did a divide by 0 that you shouldn't be doing. Pound value means it doesn't make sense the output wise, and you have to go back and figure out what's wrong with the formula and why the value didn't come back as something it understands. I can't tell you an example where pound num actually comes into matter, because I don't think I've ever seen it practically used. At least if you come up with it, that'd be great. Another example or another formula, VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is what you want to look up, where are you going to look for it, in the column and the range of the data, and then return an approximate or exact match. So basically, you can take a whole range of data or a table of data in tabular lookup and say, all right, in this information, I could do a VLOOKUP on everything that is a ID of 103, and then you can get it to tell you all the information based on 1 and 3 if you wanted to, right? Or you could say look up on, in this case, they did it based on first name. So, and with that VLOOKUP, it came up with that is first name. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and try to get Excel to come up and do something with this. So let me stop sharing for a moment. Open. Didn't think to try to do this ahead of time, so I all right, let's go back to sharing. I assume you can see Excel. Anybody can confirm that? All right, well, let's assume that it is. All right, so oh, wrong button. There we go. Should be more easy to read. So one of the original assignments that used to be in this class, you actually used Excel to do some of the homework in this class. That got changed like a year and a half ago. So then now it's more dependent on IntelliPath for the specific class. I kind of hope they go back to using Excel to do your homework, but in there, the basically the students were given this much data. They didn't have this piece. They had this part. Their goal was to put their name in here, format it in a manner such as, you know, you wanted to make it a different color. Let's make it blue for sake of discussion. Maybe adding different colors in the cells. Make it so it's contrasting so you can see it, right? Or bold. You could bold or unbold. And then you would have this data here. It's like, well, University 104, these were your grades for the different projects, individual projects. That's what you used to call IPs. That's now been changed by units. And you would get a set of grades, and your goal was to come up with your final grade based on the individual class. So we would do, in this case, the equal average of this grade of cells. You can see that the cells get highlighted because of the formula, right? So in there, so if I just wanted to say, if I did a equal sum, I could say this plus this gives me 152 because that's the added, or, you know, same, I could do it either by the comma or with the plus sign. I could say sum of this subtracting this, right? That would give me a -2 because 85 minus 87, basic math means it's -2. You can also have you fixing formulas, you can drag them down and peanut butter spread them. So if I had a whole bunch of garbage information in this, right, I could take this formula, which I know is now working because it's correctly calculating all of these cells as highlighted. And then I could take it in the corner at the bottom right and drag down, and it will automatically fix those cells for the different rows. As you can see up here in the B8 to F8, or here it's B6 to F6. Same thing applies both left and right for rows and columns. So you can say, all right, I have garbage data here. I can peanut butter spread this way, and now this formula calculates. See here, I'm using the same thing, but this formula is going up and down with these fours, so that I have the average going across per class, and I have the average going across, going down here for each individual project, right? So the original assignment with students was to get them to figure out how to actually come up with basically, no, that's not what I wanted. I want this to basically say I wanted to have those pieces of data figured out by formula, and then ultimately this piece of data answered, right? So they were trying to take those. You can use Microsoft Office 365 through your Chromebook, yeah. You can also do it through their website now. The CTU now supports the website version of 365. That wasn't true like a year and a half ago. Cell phones don't necessarily work. The only limitation I could think of in a Chromebook version of Office 365 is pivot tables, visualization of pivot tables. I've heard people have some difficulty in making that work right within the Chromebook version, but that may be something Microsoft was still working on at this point. So other than that, yeah, I mean, even your little Samsung Android can run Excel now, and it can do just about everything except for pivot tables or advanced graphing concepts. So now if I wanted to get an average, these are alternates of how to get a sum versus count of. This is actually a way to get an average, a different way to get an average. That's a way to get an average. This here gets the average was based on going left to right here. So that was just some examples of things to do. That one of the assignments used to be. Like I said, you can do conventional formatting. You can either do this, you could highlight, right? You could word wrap. So if you wanted to, you can have it go left, this way, or you can word wrap it so that it will go up and down. So you can get column headers correctly. If you needed to delete a row, you can highlight it this way, go right click, delete. That deletes a row. You can right click, insert a row. That gives you a blank row. If you needed to copy a row, you could copy literally an entire row. Or if you wanted to copy, you could also say insert copied row, and that'll do that same thing as a one-step instead of a two-step process. So you can also do the undo to undo any odd changes you make to it you don't like in there. It only understands copies with one action before. So if I did a copy here and then I did something here, I can't then paste because it would actually miss that, right? So it can only go copy one action to go forward. So that is a minor limitation within Excel. But when you get to the point where this was the other part 3 of that same assignment at the time, is this is how you can visualize inside a graph. So you could actually make visual data based on the numeric tabular data in that context. And we'll get into that. That's part of it's either now in week 2 or week 3 discussion. We'll get into some more details about how to do that. But you can also say entire areas of data for data validation or consolidation, or you could do it for sorry, glasses on. That's for data, not data validation is what I'm looking for. Conditional formatting. You can also build rules for conditional formatting. So that, say, if you wanted to, you could say, let's go back over here to this table here. Say anything on this particular spreadsheet, I'm going to do a conditional formatting. And I want to build a rule that tells me all cell values greater than 89.9. And I will say I want them to be filled in with dark blue, and I want to make the font color yellow and bold, I could do that. And now suddenly, as you can see, it's kind of weird. I picked up the text here as being greater than. Not sure why I did that. But you can see it did the numbers here in the manner I expected it to be, right? Now, if I go back to conditions format, typically you want to range where all your formulas are in this context. So conditional formatting, new rule, let's say type of number value. Let's see. No, let's not do $2. Let's go with you have a lot of different options. So I'll just make it simple. All right, greater than or equal to 90. Like I just showed you this one, but you can also do the same thing with you just want to make like particular thing, or you can like automatically fill in your headers this way. So that's an example of how you can do conditional formatting. Let's go back to, we'll get some more advanced techniques of Excel later on. Let's go back to sharing, PowerPoint package, share. Okay, I hope you're seeing the same page you were seeing before. But yeah, so lots of different things you can do. Those are examples of stuff you'll be talking about in chapters 3 or 4 within the book, and answering questions about or doing in Thin and Telepath what it can do. The Muse website this year can be used to help you with some learning additional capabilities or things. So some of the questions are spreadsheets used mainly by accountants? They are commonly used by accountants to create lists of inventories to address financial statements and the like inventory, but they're also used by scientists and engineers to perform analysis on data they collect. And in some cases, it is overused by engineers for baseline of design architecture because it's such a simple tool and such a versatile tool that it can be used to basically describe anything. So it is also not typically used for big data analytics nowadays because they have to have something with millions of rows of data or columns of data to analyze at once. So there's now tools that are better built for handling large quantities of data like that, or large data sets, or as we would call data lakes. The use of data lakes is not necessarily common outside of like large scale systems like satellite design networks or like large scale streaming data collection uses, or like health analysis from understanding medical data, right? So you have to get a large amount of data for a data lake to matter. But those who do, there are now tools better than Excel for analyzing those directly because they're built in with the ability to manage that data too. Whereas Excel has some limitations, primarily in the fact that it can be one or more physical files with one or more physical tabs. But data lakes typically involve hundreds of thousands of unique sources of data feeding into at all times that you have to real-time analyze. So you have to be able to access all those data streams at once. What makes it powerful for tool for business? Collects data in many different forms. You can keep track of suppliers, timesheets, customer invoices, pretty much anything you can think of that requires tabular data allocated and assigned and organized in some manner. So I guess I should have, before I started this page, asked if there's any questions based on the little demonstration I did on Excel. So if there is, feel free to ask. I can go back and show you something else. Okay. All right. Moving forward then. Can it be used as a database? Yes, Excel can typically be used as a database because it's defined as a way to collect related data. So there are databases out there you're probably familiar with. You heard the term Oracle. They're probably the most expensive database in the industry. Not necessarily the best one for modern technology either. They are capable of handling millions of records of stream data easily for large scale systems, but when it comes to smaller businesses, the licensing is prohibitive for small to medium scale businesses to own like an Oracle database. So a lot of people use things like MySQL or Mondo, and yeah, as opposed to that, or they'll use Excel because Excel can be used like a database too, and they pretty much always have to have or a lot of people have the Office product suite already in order to do business as where they're at. So components of spreadsheet design is practically done, but they can differ between industries. However, they are generally, most features are present in all spreadsheets today. So Excel is just a very popular one. There are other alternative products out there. You can use Google. Google Sheets, I think, is the free open docs version of a Excel you can use. You can also do that with a Chromebook. I just don't know the differences in how you can do pivot tables or charts between Google Sheets versus Excel. So I would have to do research in order to help you and want to try to do it that way. But other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. They quite literally, they look and feel the same. They have the same formulas. The differences being the ribbon, but that's, anybody can do that. And OpenSheets is a free Google Docs product. So like I showed you, you can copy anything from one cell to another. You can also copy formatting from cells between there. You can use the painter to spread colors around. So there's lots of different ways you can copy and paste and make things easier to read, better to readability, better understanding, easier to extract data from visually. A lot of people use Excel to also create the reports that they quite literally will use as print this page out to give to as your receipt to your customer, right? Because you can color in borders of cells, you can align data in there, you can build the reports where you can extract data from one sheet and literally build a report from the next sheet for what you're doing by some basic VLOOKUP tables. So other formatting items can be used when creating through data entry. Yeah, so it is possible to also create front ends. So you can have pull downs of data, or you can have quite literally error checking of inputs as a GUI entrance, or like you would look at a website, right, where you have like fields you have to fill in data from and have that directly translate into an Excel spreadsheet for you. So you can actually build those kinds of front ends to work with Excel. Once the data becomes created, it's easy to then create and organize so you can see them such a way to make them easier to read. You do have to set print area in order to make printing work. You do have to, within Excel, you have to do a few other things in order to make it visually look right when you want to put it on paper. But, I hope that all made sense. It's also not necessarily a great idea, but it happens, especially, engineers do it a lot in that they will make columns, or they make spreadsheets that are like 20 to 100 columns wide, right? But when you're looking at a field of data like that, unless you need to go back and forth and you're correlating in certain ways, it's not the easiest thing to look at, and it certainly doesn't work on when it comes to a printer. So just keep in mind how you want to do that. It's usually better to alternate rows for certain things, or to use different sheets for different purposes, and then extracting data from the same sheet. But you can, if you wanted to, have a big massive spreadsheet going left to right and up to down with tons and tons of data, if that's all you're ever going to use it is within Excel as a data organization tool. So, any other questions so far? Okay. What do you need to do before printing a spreadsheet? So one of the things you have to do is you have to highlight the range of cells you want to print, and then you have to go say select print set area. This sets the area that gets printed. So when you print that time, it'll only print those number of cells in that range that you highlighted to the printer. You can also print that to a PDF, or you can print an entire Excel spreadsheet to a PDF, however you want to do that. And you can actually add headers and footers to it in case you needed to, like for purposes of putting business logos up there or graphic logos, or if you needed to add, like in the military world, class and unclass at the top and bottom, unclassified at the top and bottom, and or secret to the top and bottom, depending on context. But all those can be done. So everything of that can be a text, number, or formula can be put into Excel. Quite literally, just about anything. But if you like start with an equal sign or start with the minus sign, and you intentionally wanted to show the equal sign or minus sign, you have to put a single quote before that, single quote character before that, so it'll actually quote it as a thing instead of using it like a formula. So equal and minus have specific purposes inside of Excel. So and it is possible you can also use Alt Enter to make it so you can have multiple rows of text with carriage return breakup inside of a given cell. So in the event you need to do that, engineers tend to do that a lot. It's not necessarily popular inside of business necessarily, but it is an option you can do. You can break up your text fields with carriage returns. So instead of multiple cells, you can hide entire rows the same way I showed you to delete and add. There's also a right-click hide and unhide, so they will keep the data there instead of deleting it, but it won't be visible to you. So if you want to build that into formulas, you can then build formulas that calculate data, or you can hide the data itself if you wanted to, and still reference it. Yeah, or you can use custom formatting to make cells turn white if you just want to hide text that you have written in there for some reason. If you hit the F1 key, like every other Word Office product, it gives up to you the ability to access a help menu that is provided off Microsoft's website that you can then search through, find all the functions. There is some offline Office help as well, but they've been building more and more of it into being online interactive with the website. So throughout this course, actually, before I get there, everything else makes sense so far? Covered everything you guys cared about? Before I go any farther? Hope you guys are finding this useful. I'm doing a lot of talking. Y'all are doing a lot of listening. Do we need to put the sorting hat to figure out where everyone belongs? Referencing the shirt that I'm wearing. Okay. These are Muse websites that give you all the additional information you need to know. This here covers the entire course and everything they put into Excel onto Muse. So it is a good starting point for additional learning material. These are the links you can then process. These are the original set. There are actually more from on Muse. I will get those and add them over time to you guys. But if you look at these, it will give you some chances, some videos, some text to read and whatnot. It'll help out. So basically, they're trying to turn Muse into, or was at one point using Muse like an alternate textbook for all the courses, but they haven't quite got there yet. Additionally, this is a pretty good website to go to that shows you 26 tips on how to become better at Excel and what to do to make it more convenient and easier to use. It's a really good source of material. Yeah, that covers pretty much everything I had set up to discuss today. So I hope you guys found this useful, and hope I taught you guys some stuff. Yeah, you can come and go as you please. This is a free country. I'm not holding you here. So this is a free country after all. Beyond that, if you have questions, ask questions. Otherwise, if this is good enough, we're going to call it a day. And I will see y'all Monday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop recording. Yes.